Hello, everyone. This is Empowering Democracy, and this is another Dump the Corruption show focusing on the fundraising of Grace Napolitano, Adam Smith, not the Adam Smith, of course, and Darren Soto. Uh, and we'll turn to that in just a moment. With me tonight is my good friend, Dee Pierce, co-host of Around the World with Brandy and Dee.
Hello, everybody.
Unfortunately, Brandy is not able to join us tonight, and also Greg Mallard is not able to join us tonight, or at least we don't expect him at this point. So it's just going to be the two of us, and we will go over open secrets data to see whether these three CPC congresspeople that we're looking at tonight pass the litmus test. Once again, to remind everybody, this is the litmus test for Dump the Corruption. If people fail the litmus test, then we are recommending that everybody vote against them and also vote against any other candidates running for their seat who would also fail the litmus test. What is the litmus test? Candidates for Congress cannot take any money from wealthy individuals, from rich corporations, large and wealthy corporations. Cannot take any money from political action committees. Have to repudiate any support they get from super PACs or from carry committees. And finally, also must refrain from self-funding and from taking any funds from the major party committees. That is, the Democratic National Committee, the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, their Republican equivalents, okay, and so on. Why is that part of the litmus test? Because those committees serve as ways to wash, to launder funds that are coming to them from wealthy individuals, from rich corporations, from PACs, and so on. Okay, so the party committees are off limits too. To summarize this, the litmus test is if people are taking money from any source other than small dollar donations from individuals, they do not pass the litmus test and should be removed from office in any future election they are running in. No exceptions and no apologies. Small dollar donations only should be allowed to run campaigns unless laws are passed to fund elections with public funds. So let us now move. Have you any comments on that, Dee, by the way?
No, not really.
Okay, so you agree with that characterization of the rule governing the litmus test?
Yes.
Okay. So now let us go to the candidates. The first one we'll take a look at is Grace Napolitano. Who is a California congressperson. She's from California District 31. I must remember to share her. Okay, let's look at the summary data on Grace Napolitano. She was the incumbent. She was the winner. This is an amazingly low total of funds raised and spent. She raised $364,950. To remind people, the average for people who were elected to Congress this year was $3.5 million. So she raised 1/10 of that. She spent still less, $237,582 spent versus $364,950 she raised. She ended with cash on hand of $660,698. There was another candidate in this race. He was a Republican. His name was Daniel Bosick Martinez. And there's no data on how much money he raised. The outside spending in support of Grace Napolitano, in other words, PAC spending, carry committee spending, $475 in support of Grace Napolitano. Nothing that was spent in opposition to Grace Napolitano. There was another candidate not previously mentioned whose name is Agnes Gaboni. She got $0 in support of her from outside spending and $8 that opposed her. So she's a pretty unpopular candidate. She got $8 in opposition and $0 supporting her. So anyway, there was no super PAC support for any of the candidates. Let's go to the candidate page. That usually has some interesting data on it, such as 59.5% of the vote was won by Grace Napolitano, the incumbent, so she won rather handily. I wonder where the other 40.5% went, to which candidates. I'm surprised that's not indicated here, but okay. Small individual contributions. Catch this. Only $162 was contributed to Grace Napolitano in the way of small individual contributions. 0.04% of Grace's contributions. Large individual contributions, in other words, contributions from relatively wealthy people, were $71,550 going to Grace Napolitano. That was 19.6% of what she raised. Most of what she raised, 78.68% of it, came from PACs, $287,150. So she took money from PACs and from large individual contributions, and that's all. So she fails the litmus test on those two counts, okay, immediately. There was yet another Republican candidate in the race by the name of Carolyn Covell. Evidently, there wasn't any really important data from her that was picked up. Let's look at contributors. So, Dee, what do you think of this candidate?
Seems like she's in a safe district.
A really safe district, right? She
Yeah,
hardly
so
has to lift a finger to get elected.
no. So is the kind of districts, if you're a politician, the kind of district you want to be in.
Yes, I guess. If you're interested in keeping a low profile, she's got a really, really low profile. Uh, one of her contributors was Democracy Engine. They gave her 29,000. Okay, I think that's was her largest source, okay, of funds. She had a whole bunch of other contributors uh, that were basically giving her
Smaller amounts.
smaller amounts. The Carpenters and Joiners Union, $10,000. National Union of Healthcare Workers, $10,000. From American Crystal Sugar, she got $10,000. From American Federation of State, City, and Municipal Employees, she got $10,000. From the American Council of Engineering Companies, she got $8,000. Airline Pilots Association, $8,000. The American Israel PAC, $7,900. By the way, all these contributions were from PACs. Delta Airlines, $7,500. AT&T, $7,000. For Medicine International, $6,500. Okay, I'm not going to read all those. They're pretty small contributions. She even got only 5,000 from the Teamsters Union, which I find interesting.
And then 500 from United Health Group. So
Yep, just not much money from anyone, I suppose. The big news there is that she's probably not bought by anybody because there wasn't enough money put in the race to buy her. But still, okay, according to the litmus test rule, she's a PAC person. And you can see the breakdown of her top industries here. Okay, Democratic / liberal groups, 34,000. Transportation unions, 19,500. Construction services, 18,500. And the crop production, basic processing industry, 18,000. Public sector unions, 17,500. Building trade unions, 15,000. Casinos and gambling, 10,000. Air transport, but 10,000. And so on to a number of other smaller contributions. And those were her top industries. It's notable that the last among her top industries, the leadership PACs, gave her only $3,500. So that was,
No, she wasn't really going out there for the money, you know. She just had people that just, in general, I guess they just throw money at everybody unless you beg them for more. But she just took what she got.
yeah, she probably didn't do much solicitation at all because she felt completely safe in her district. Okay, let's see. So these are sector totals. One of her top sectors was construction. There's also a miscellaneous business sector. In both cases, she got 25,000 from those two. She got 68,000 from labor altogether. And the ideology single issue sector gave her 38,000. So those were her the top sectors contributing to her. Let's go to PACs. We already got some PAC data earlier. This classifies the PAC data into business, labor, ideological, okay, and others. Business PACs gave her 169,000.3 K, 169.3 K. Labor gave her 100 K. The ideological groups gave her 17.4 K, and the other category gave her 1.5 K. So this was pretty much confined to business and labor PACs, and she got more money from business PACs than she did from labor PACs.
Hmm.
Which is interesting, right? 169,250 from the business PACs, 100,000 from the labor PACs, 17,422 from the ideological PACs. As we said before, based on the percentage of contributions to her, she is certainly a PAC person. And as we
Yeah,
saw,
she is.
also, even the individual contributions came from large contributors, not from small contributors. Okay, looking at outside spending, we already saw in another category that the outside spending was very small. Yes, in this race, practically non existent. Okay, so that covers her, and she fails a litmus test because she took the PAC money and she also took a substantial amount of money from wealthy individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so let's now go to sharing the screen for Adam Smith, who has run in District 9 in Washington and has run some close races there, but always seems to come out on top for some reason. His district is a heavily Democratic district. Uh, he raised $1,381,609. He spent $1,373,485. He got out of the election with $593,951. Doug Bassler was the Republican who ran against him. He raised $134,000 in round figures, spent 141,268. His cash on hand was negative 2,500. and $16. Okay, at the end of the race, they record other candidates in the race as Doug Bassler. I thought there were some other candidates in the race. It says see all candidates in the race here. So let me see. Now, let me put this other tab here because I was sure that maybe Rebecca Parson was running against him. Nope, doesn't say so here. Let me shift over to the candidates page. I may be wrong. He might have been unchallenged, except for Doug Bassler, the Republican challenger we see here. So let me go to the candidates. I think that was the page I was just on anyway, that it took me to. He got 71.7% of the vote. So the Republican candidate was really swamped. His small individual contributions totaled 41,249. That was 2.99% of the vote. His large individual contributions was 601,760, 43.56% of the vote. His PAC contributions was 727,000, 52.62% of the vote. So we see from that he took contributions from wealthy people. So he failed that part of the test. And he also failed the PAC contributions with 727,000. I'm speaking of Adam Smith now. So he fails the litmus test too. We can see that already. There was no self-financing. There were some other contributions of 11,600, amounting 0.84% of the contributions. Now, Doug Bassler got 28.3% of the vote, spent only 133,962 to get that. He raised 16,909 in small contributions, 12.62% of the vote. His large contributions from individuals were 105,819. That's where his fundraising was focused, on relatively rich people who made large contributions. He had PAC contributions of only 10,835. He raised 105,819 from the large individual contributors. That was 78.99% of what he raised. The PAC contributions were 8.09. So he fails on those two counts, okay, as well. And so that kind of tells the story, except for Stephanie Gallardo ran against Adam Smith, one of the three very good Washington progressive candidates, ran against Adam Smith. But she was knocked out in the primary. She raised more than the Republican candidate. She raised $199,094. Let's see if we can find out. She didn't have any debts. She didn't have any cash on hand at the end. She had 98.61% of her contributions came from individual contributions. There's no breakdown here, so I can't see what was from small contributions from individuals as opposed to large contributions, okay, from individuals. But I doubt that many large individual contributors came to her. she had PAC contributions of 2,500. So technically, she would have failed the PAC test, but obviously she's pretty clean that way. Only 1.23% of her contributions were from PACs, and the rest were just individual. She had a little candidate self-financing, spent $315 of her own money, and in the other categories, I don't know who was in the other categories, but they were negative $3,344, which was negative 1.65% of our contributions. So I thought that was interesting because there were high hopes for Stephanie Gugliardo to do a lot better than she did because she was a supporter of Medicare for All and a supporter of the Green New Deal. Uh, she was a real fighter, but she could not overcome the money, okay, of Adam Smith. So let's now look at the contributors page. Adam Smith got $70,000 from the Kratos Defense and Security Solutions. I guess that's a company. He got 44,400 from Microsoft, 27,700 from Palantir Technologies. He's involved, by the way, in deep state stuff, so that's why he got those contributions. He got contributions from APAC, $17,950. American Superconductors, 17,400. 17,000 from Starkey Hearing Technologies. Also, Blue Origin gave him 13,700. Baker Donaldson gave him 12,100. Excuse me a second while I take some pills. He got 12,900 also from Amazon. 12,500 from the Seafarers International Union. 10,500 from Andural Industries, it looked like. BAE Systems gave him 10,250. SAP SE, the German firm, gave him 10,250. Got 10,000 from Raytheon Technologies. 10,000 from Rolls-Royce. 10,000 from SAIC, that's Science Applications, or maybe that's not, I'm sorry, that's SAIC. It's not Science Applications Incorporated. I forget what the SAIC stands for. But that's a very, very big research and consulting firm. I should say they gave him only 10,000. Anyway, Puget Equico gave him, that must be the Puget Equipment Corporation, gave him 10,000. Northrop Grumman gave him 10,000. Operating Engineers Union gave him 10,000. Oshkosh Corp gave him 10,000. Okay, Doug Bassler got 5,000 from Boeing, 5,000 from the Huck Pack, 2,100 from Alberto Sausage, 2,500 from the Chinese American Patriots Alliance, $2,500 from Teo Pacific Partners. Keep electric pound pack. AAA heating and AC. Broadcast professionals. Well, that's going down to $1,000 or so in contributions. So I'll stop reading those off. But it shows there wasn't much competition in the fundraising. What is this? This is his top industries. Okay, so electronics. Okay, the electronics manufacturing and equipment industry gave him $109,675. Defense electronics gave him $109,000. $81,550 from miscellaneous defense. Okay, from retired people, he got $66,575. From defense aerospace, $60,500. From lobbyists, $55,175. From securities and investments, $47,200. Air transport, $40,950. Casinos and gambling, $39,800. Lawyers and law firms, $38,550. Building trade unions, $32,500. Telecom services, $27,000. Health services and HMOs, $24,650. Pro-Israel groups, $23,549. Transportation units, $23,500. From real estate, $21,100. From pharmaceuticals and health products, $15,900. From miscellaneous energy, $17,400. From public sector unions, $14,500. From miscellaneous manufacturing and distributing, $13,100. I'm not going to go through Doug Baxter's contributions because they were pretty small, generally speaking. So I'm going to see what looking at the sectors tells us quickly, see if that tells us anything different. No, I don't think it really tells us anything different. He's very concentrated in electronics and defense. That's where his money comes from. Generally speaking, he gets a fair amount of contributions from lawyers and lobbyists and from the fire sector, but not nearly as much as communications, electronics, and defense. Okay, looking at PACs. The business PACs gave him $568,000. The labor PACs, $136,500. Archaeological PACs, $26,862. So he got quite a bit of money from PACs. I think we read a total of something like I don't know, 700,000 before, or something like that from the page. I don't think we've seen a breakdown. Have we seen a breakdown yet of large individual contributions from him? Let me back that up. I think I did something wrong. Yeah. Yeah, his back contributions were 727,000. His large individual contributions were 602,000 roughly. So those were the two areas where he failed the litmus test.
Yes.
Okay, let's check the outside spending here and see if there are any super PACs or carry groups that were supporting him. There was small activity from outside groups spending money in this race. I mean, super PACs gave like $16 from one and $16 from another. And there was a 501c carry group that gave him $376. So that kind of money wasn't a factor in this campaign. The big money came from the PACs and also uh, from large contributions from individuals. Uh, so he fails the litmus test on both of those counts. Uh, it was a pretty unexciting race. He won very, very handily. Okay. There is one remaining candidate to discuss for tonight, and that candidate is Darren Soto. He comes from the 9th Congressional District in Florida. He was the incumbent. He won. He raised $1,326,128, spent $1,434,248, ended with 64,281, spent more than he raised, of course, as we see here. He was opposed by Scotty Moore, who raised $595,733, spent $593,375, ended with cash on hand of $1,958. So there was another Republican in this race. His name was William Olson. And when we look at the outside spending by candidates, there was some in this race. Scotty Moore got 31,936 in outside groups that supported him. Darren Soto got 16,648 in outside groups that supported him. The outside groups did not oppose Scotty Moore, nor did they oppose Darren Soto. There was $8 in opposition to William Olson, the third candidate whose data we don't have in the main race. I'm sure that he was just soundly beaten in the primary and then dropped out. We will see when we look at the candidates tab here. We will see how tight a race it was. It was 53.6% of the vote for Darren Soto. And then it gives the fundraising figures that we mentioned earlier. Small individual contributors, only $9,708, 0.73% for Darren Soto. Large individual contributions were $474,000 for Darren Soto, 35.74% of his totals. His PAC contributions were $847,656. That was nearly 64% of his contributions. Okay, so you can see he, in a manner similar to Adam Smith, fails the litmus test on two counts. He got 474,000 from fairly wealthy people, and his PAC contributions were 847,656. Let's see if there's any other interesting data here. Um, Scotty Moore got very little in PAC contributions, 18,500. He got very little in small individual contributions, 22,170. His fundraising was dominated by individual contributions from wealthy people, 557,963, 93.72% of his contributions from wealthy people. So he was certainly the candidate of the wealthy.
Yes.
Really pretty clear. There were a bunch of other candidates who ran in this race. I'm not going to check them out because there were none of them who were very important to this race. I have to add, the Republicans did not spend a lot of money trying to defeat Darren Soto. They must have figured this was a Democratic district and they were going to lose anyway. I think it's a surprise that Scotty Moore got 46.4% of the vote. It suggests, okay, that the Republicans should have spent more because it might have been a vulnerable seat for Democrats. So maybe next time they will do that. But anyway, Darren Soto is someone who fails the litmus test, okay, as well. Okay, let me just check out the PACs sector here and see if there's anything interesting there, since there was a little bit of PAC and spending by outside groups, other outside groups. Uh, the business PAC spending. Oh, I'm sorry, this is not outside groups. These are business PACs. So Darren Soto got 636,500 from the business PACs, 138,000 from the labor PACs, and 60,712 from the ideological PACs. Scotty Moore got 22,500 from ideological PACs, I guess right wing groups who had formed some PACs. So this was the PAC page we were looking at here. I guess I meant to look at the outside spending page too, because that's just kind of interesting to see what happened. I guess I actually covered this before. About 32,000 went to Scotty Moore. About 17,000 went to Darren Soto from outside groups. Uh, there was no money spent in opposition to either one of them, only in support of them. There was one super PAC that spent $28,339. That was by far the biggest super PAC contributor that we've seen tonight. And that was House Freedom Action. They were, I think, probably in support of uh, Scotty Moore. Nope, that can't be, because I think we saw. Let me check back and see. Oh, that could have gone to Scotty Moore because he did get 31,936 in support. So most probably that super PAC was in support of him, because couldn't have been in support of Darren Soto, because Darren Soto raised only 16,648 in outside money. So that was kind of interesting. But of course, our conclusion is that Darren Soto was a PAC person and was also taking money from wealthy individuals. So he clearly fails the litmus test. So Darren Soto and Adam Smith and Grace Napolitano, three more progressive candidates, three more members of the CPC, all failed the litmus test. Okay. It begins to look like, when we see this pattern, when we go forward this pattern, okay, it seems to look like taking money from rich people and taking money from PACs is pretty endemic to the system of candidates that have joined the Congressional Progressive Caucus. That is not the pattern of fundraising we should see from candidates who are truly progressive. It may be a pattern that we should see from establishment candidates, but so far, all these litmus tests and their results have left a pretty poor impression of the CPC. That is, from a progressive standpoint. The candidates just do not raise funds in the way that Bernie Sanders raised his funds, which of course were heavily dominated by small individual contributions.
Right, and it's a matter of getting out to your community, getting out there and talking to the public, knocking on doors, getting to know people. And it seems they just want to take the quick money. They're taking money, like you say, from the PACs. It's not individual representation really representing the people.
Yes, they're not doing door knocking. The ground game of these people, at least the three that we reviewed here tonight, judging from the fundraising, it seemed like it was pretty terrible. Now, we haven't seen the campaign expenditures here, okay, because they come on another page of open secrets that I didn't have open for these candidates. But it's pretty plain to me that there's no ground game here to be seen.
No.
Okay, if there was, they'd be raising much more money from the small individual contributions. Okay, anything else to add, Dee?
It's just a sad sight because, when you hear the word progressive, you think one thing, but then when you dive deep into it, you're seeing something else.
Mm. Yes, you're seeing something else. So let's look at our comments today and see what we get. Looks like Steve Wolfbrandt was having a good time. He says, hello, Doc. Everybody greets each other. Steve Day is here, and Steve Wolfbrandt. And Dee, of course, is in the comments also. Steve asks, where's District 31? Bob Copeland says, Grace Napolitano must be in a very safe district. I agree, of course. Steve Wolfbrandt says, Robert, exactly. And he laughs. Ha ha ha. And Cora Emanuel is here. Hi, Cora. How are you? Robert says, Steve, she is in the San Gabriel Valley and parts of Los Angeles County. Okay, is she in a wealthy section of Los Angeles County, Robert? And Cora says, last night at the SOTU address, Biden said he wants to return to a balanced budget. Bad news, everybody. He wants to return to a balanced budget. Of course, you all understand that if there's no deficit, it's bad money. It's bad news for regular people. The reason why is if there's a balanced budget, something with a small surplus, then that means money is being taken out of the private sector. It means if you reached it, it would mean that next year the private sector would have less money in it than it had in the previous year. Now, people in the private sector, not people, but whatever is in the private sector, such as businesses, such as households, fight for what goes to the private sector. When there's a surplus, the fight is intensified, and the power is usually in the hands of the businesses, not in the hands of the households. So having balanced budgets is not in the interests of households, given the political power, the relative political power of households compared to businesses in this country. Marjorie Taylor Greene heckled him and called him a liar about uh, Trump's deficits. And now that it's getting some media attention, MNT community should seize this opportunity to argue about how devastating balanced budgets are. I entirely agree. Thanks. That was the first thing that came to my mind when I read the first part of your comment, was to make sure people knew balanced budgets are bad for people. Steve Wolfman says, I live close by. And Robert says, Grace Napolitano is close to 90 years old. Oh, wow. Jeez. And Steve Wolfman says, Robert, geez, that was my first thought too. Grace was born in December of 1936. Then I begin to differ with you, Robert, because that is not close to 90 years old. That is close to 87 years old. And I know because I was born on January 8th, 1939, and I am 84 years old. Kay says, wow, Robert. Wesley Weil says, hey, P. I don't know what hey, P is. Steve Wolfbrand says, hey, Wesley. Wesley waves. Steve says, smash the like button. Greg still feeling badly? Yes, I guess. I guess he was commenting a lot today on our private chat, but he doesn't seem to be in shape to do streams tonight. But I mean, he doesn't have a stream at 10 o'clock, does he? D?
No, he doesn't.
Yes, he hasn't announced the stream. So Steve says, gay pack. Kay says, haven't heard much from him for a while. No, at first, last week, I guess it was beginning last Thursday, he fell seriously ill. And that stopped him from a number of days. But I'm not sure why he has not had streams the last couple of days. But we'll find out. Robert Copeland says, I was looking at my congressperson and she failed the litmus test. Who's your congressperson, Robert? Go start. Steve Go Start is person turquoise waving. Find a unicorn yet? No, no unicorns. Nobody who passes the litmus test. So guess what that means? It means, according to the Dump the Corruption campaign, every single congressperson should be thrown out. We should have a clean sweep of the House in 2024, at least as far as we've gone. Of course, we've only gone to the progressive candidates or the people who claim they're progressives, the members of the CPC. We have not yet gone to the other Democrats or to the Republicans, but I think we will be going to them sometime later. And I think our results will show that the whole House deserves to be defeated. Lock, stock, and barrel. All bought. All bought. Robert Copeland says, I was looking at both House members that represent parts of Sacramento County, and one of them, by the name of Ami Bera, took money from AIPAC. Well, I'm certain about that. Yes, I kind of thought. But I'm sure he's taken a lot of other PAC money, Ami Bera has. I'm absolutely sure he's a PAC man. And Steve Gosta says, hey, Kay Ryan, how about Joe Daddy? I gather that's Joe Biden, saying he'll veto any healthcare privatization bills while expanding Trump's healthcare privatization plan. Yeah, that's what he said, right? Because he's going to try to expand the Accountable Care Office. That's the ACO REACH program, is the program he wants to increase. That is the program working on increasing the medical loss ratio to 50%. Okay, under the Medicare Advantage program, the loss ratio was increased I should say the loss ratio was decreased to 85%. That means 85% of the revenue going to the insurance companies was going to patient care. But ACO REACH is about increasing the loss ratio to 50%. It's not there yet, but they're working on it, which means only 50% of their revenue will actually go to patient care. Isn't that something we all want to see? I don't think so. Cora Manuel says, Bernie had an energized base and worked tirelessly to get his message out. He did. That's what other progressive candidates have to have. Robert Copeland says, I have no idea. I was looking on Wikipedia for my information on Grace Napolitano. Karen Ryan says, I'm just glad they took SS, Medicare, and Medicaid out of it, Steve. Now, wait, they haven't taken it out of it. Biden has said he's taken it off the table. He claimed that everybody agreed that it would be taken off the table. But I didn't see Kevin McCarthy saying that that was off the table. And Kevin McCarthy made certain commitments to the Marjorie Taylor Greens of the world and other such people in the Republican Party that Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid would be very much on the table. And of course, we know that Joe Biden is always BSing. He doesn't tell the truth very often. And Kay said, still don't trust that, though. Yes, Kay, that's wise. Joestat says, that's my point. Talk is cheap. They're still doing it. With cheap talk, yes, absolutely. Robert Copeland says, Doris Matsui. I think we went over here, Doris Matsui, earlier. I seem to recall that Greg did that on his program, and he also concluded that Doris Matsui failed the litmus test. Kay Ryan says yes. Robert Copeland says Doris Matsui is my congressperson. And Robert Copeland says, Joe, let me say that Ami Bera is a Pac-Man. Kay says, we need single payer. Yeah, we need it in the worst way, Kay. But I'm afraid we won't get single payer until we get dump the corruption. If you want to get single payer, we got to dump the corruption first. Because we have to dump most of the House first and a good part of the Senate. Scare the living daylights out of them. Then we will get single payer. And Joe Biden alone will not block it. He says he will. But he doesn't keep his word under pressure. He doesn't keep his word when he gives his word to the progressives, and he doesn't keep his word when he gives it to the business interests also if he faces tremendous pressure. He's a person who doesn't keep his word if he thinks it's going to cost him too much politically. So let me say, if we get the House and the Senate correctly oriented out of fear of dump the corruption, those bills will pass and they'll get to Joe Biden's desk. And in that environment, Joe Biden will sign those bills if they get there before the election of 2024. If they get there after the election of 2024, and he should win the election of 2024, then he might veto a Medicare for All bill. He might dare to veto one. But we shall see. Okay. Anyway, Dee, you have any comments on any of that?
Not really. I just would like to find somebody. You know what I'm saying? To say, wow, this person is great.
Okay. I don't know if we can find somebody, but it might be someone really unexpected, like the congressman who's very unpopular with the Republicans. I think he comes from Kentucky. Okay, I forget his name right now, but he seems to be highly ideological when it comes to spending money. I think he's very much against deficit spending, including spending for war. And we may find that he's clean when it comes to PAC contributions from outside groups, and also contributions from wealthy people. Though I bet he doesn't ideologically oppose those contributions. So Robert Copeland points out Doris Matsui doesn't support Medicare for all. Yes, I know. Okay, that she doesn't. And Kay says most don't, Robert. And Robert says, Kashama Sawant would be a good choice. She'd be a wonderful choice if she decided to run for Congress or run for the Senate or something like that. She would be that rare commodity, a candidate whose word you can trust.
Exactly. And that's always good. You know, it's always good, and you just feel so energized when you have a candidate like that running. You know,
Yes,
that excitement.
yes, that would be very, very exciting. So it's 10:06. Okay, I think that it's time to go. Thank you for joining me tonight, Dee.
Yes, thank you for having me.
It was my pleasure. And thank you to all of you who came, and thank you for the comments that you made as well.
And subscribing, please subscribe to Joe's channel if you haven't already subscribed, and share and get the word out about Joe Firestone, empowering democracy if you can. That
Yes,
would be great.
yes, please do that. And please do occasionally send a contribution. But most importantly, for tomorrow night, uh, okay, I'll be going over some of the recent very long interview that Bree Joy Gray had with Rick Wolf, and the first something like 36 minutes, okay, of that interview were full of ignorance about how federal spending occurs. So we'll be discussing that. In other words, it will be another MMT night, uh, but in the context of an interview show where two progressives were involved who subscribe to what I call the progressive give up a formula.
Mm,
So that should be an exciting night.
I think so.
It will be empowering democracy, and it will be about how these two progressives are not really empowering democracy.
No, they're just a roadblock that we've got to try to push. I mean, what you could do is give the information out there. You know, this information is out there, and they're just not reading it. They're not wanting
Yeah,
to
they're not
know.
reading it. I mean, I don't think Rick Wolf can give a cogent presentation, okay, on MMT, on what MMT is,
Right.
okay, and on what its policy implications are. And I don't think Rejoy Gray can do that.
No. And you know, Stephanie Kelton's book was out there. There's no reason why people shouldn't have at least tried to understand it.
Yes, in June of this year, it will be 4 years since Stephanie Kelton's book appeared.
Hmm.
And you mean to tell me that Bree Joy Gray hasn't had the time to read that book, and Rick Wolf hasn't had the time to read that book? Okay, now I'm not even referring to all the MMT stuff that appeared before that.
Exactly.
In other words, before that, there were 9 years of blogs and papers and academic papers going back to the late 1900s. There was plenty of time to learn a little something about MMT, and MMT was starting to get prominent in economic circles, certainly by 2015. That means in 8 years, those two progressives, and by the way, you got to keep in mind also, Stephanie Kelton was the chief economist for Bernie's campaign in 2020.
Right.
Okay, and Bree Joy Gray was his press secretary. You would
Right.
think
Just fix. Yeah.
you would think that his press secretary would know something about what his chief economist thinks. I don't understand why she's not an expert on MMT.
You just question yourself. You just shake your head. You just don't. There's no answer.
Yeah, you just don't understand it. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on this, D. I just don't understand how these people can ignore something that's right in front of their face.
Exactly. And then all the different, people were talking about it so much. There were a lot of conversations about it.
Yeah, a lot of conversations about it. Anyway, that little rant after that.
Got the
Kay,
frustration out.
if you haven't left, thank you for coming, and we do love you. And tomorrow, that is what we'll be talking about.
Yes, it should be a great show.
So thank you all for coming once again,
And good night.
and we'll see you tomorrow. And don't forget, Around the World with Brandy and Dee, okay, at 8 p.m. And don't forget also the Revolution Evolution show,
Yes.
the Greg Mallett show at 10, because I'm fairly sure that Greg is going to be back soon.
Yes. Alrighty then.
Thank you, folks.
Good night.
Bye.